Hi, everyone. My name is Sunita Kannan, and I'm the Global AI Strategy Lead at Microsoft. I lead our AI platform strategy, which includes our AI Foundry, which I'll talk a lot more about today, our AI agent, as well as our AI services, and of course, our responsible AI. I'm really happy to be here with all of you today to talk more about Microsoft's AI agent solutions. So here we go. But before we get into the specifics, I do want to talk about that AI platform shift that has been happening, and it's here already. Already, this new generation of AI is having an incredible impact on our world. Yet companies and industries are just scratching the surface of what's possible as they continue to develop new use cases across every role and function. And while AI adoption is growing steadily from about 31% in 2023 to about 78% in 2024, generative AI adoption grew rapidly over the same period, with enterprise spending increasing from $19 billion to $44 billion. And there is planned use of Gen AI increasing from 55% in 2023 to 75% in 2024, and much, much more through this year and next two periods. We also seeing organizations transitioning to a more strategic AI approach, aligning investments across applications, platforms, data, and also infrastructure, with the aim to enhance the value of AI initiatives through advanced automation, greater model and data reuse, and efficient, cost-effective inference delivery from network to edge to the individual devices itself that are being used. And the return on investment, as you can see from the chart over here with research, is showing that for every $1 a company actually invests in generative AI, the ROI is about 3.7 times across industries and similar across regions. And this is much, much more than what it has been for previous years. Now, generative AI is everywhere. We turn and we see Gen AI being used with every company, with every single individual as well. And from a Microsoft perspective, we are very focused on four key pillars to actually increase productivity with our customers. So the first area is, how do you actually increase employee productivity and well-being? Now, this is at an individual level, but also at a team level and at an organizational level. We also see that customers are using AI to reshape every business process that you're actually dealing with. How to streamline these processes, how to make them more efficient in the way that they're actually performed, and how to minimize costs and increase revenue with every single process that is being put in place in real-time. Of course, everyone knows about lots of use cases where companies are using AI for reinventing customer experience. We're talking about not just the text-based way of actually interacting with a company to get some customer feedback or to get some customer complaints logged. We're talking about more inventive services like speech, like avatar, ways to actually get to a more realistic way of interacting with those companies. And of course, there's a lot on bending the curve in innovation. And of course, there are some industries that are more prominent than others when it comes to innovative technologies, like healthcare, with new drug discovery and other things. It is a lot more out there in terms of innovation, but that doesn't mean that other industries are not actually following suit. Think about fraud detection, fraud prevention, anti-money laundering when it comes to financial services. These are also bending the curve on innovation. Now, when we think about AI opportunities, AI basically combines both personal productivity, such as efficiency, time savings, and creativity from an individual standpoint with business value. So on the right-hand side, you can see how to actually include revenue growth, cost optimization, and fostering innovation. So together, these dimensions demonstrate how AI can drive both individual and organizational success. You don't want to stop at the personal productivity, which is very targeted to each individual or each person. You want to grow that value to actually make it a team-based or an organizational-based business value that you can get from it. And this trend that we are seeing with AI, it's not just a trend, it's actually a transformative force, reshaping how we work and compete in the global market. I imagine a workplace where 76% of knowledge workers harness the power of AI to enhance their productivity. This is not a distant future. It's actually happening right now, with nearly half of these individuals adopting AI in just the past 6 months itself. The business value is undeniable, and investing in generative AI is not merely an upgrade, it's a strategic decision that promises substantial competitive advantages, financial gains, and a much more happy and more efficient workforce. But let's not stop here, because we are bringing this to life with this huge shift that we are seeing, and here we're quoting Gartner, in actually making this more autonomous. So we're going into the space of autonomous AI. Gartner has been forecasting that by 2028, at least 15% of day-to-day work decisions will be made autonomously through agentic AI. This is up from 0% in 2024. This reflects both the growing capabilities in agentic systems and the power of their agentic architectures, but also and the trust and confidence in organizations to actually delegate such tasks to AI to be able to handle them almost autonomously. And we'll hear more about that as I move through the slide. As well as this, we have an evolution of generative AI. So we're not just talking about the old prompt-based single interaction responses anymore. We're talking about how to actually take this into a multi-interaction response based on things like feedback loop and sophisticated reasoning. This is where you'll start seeing AI agents come to life. You're also moving away from single context, simple Q&A to actually more complex interactions with context switching. Again, keep in mind that we are also moving away from rule-based responses and scripts to much more hyper-personalized based customer context and previous interactions kept intact, which basically means that every time you actually interact with an agent, it's not going to have to do that from scratch. It remembers the previous conversations that you've had with it. It can actually get a hyper-personalized response for you through these previous interactions, feedback loop, and context switching. So this is where we see this shift happening from actually moving from these manual ways of working to chatbots, and we had a lot of chatbot-based use cases, and we still do, and those are not obsolete, into actually going into more of a nearly autonomous agents. And I keep talking about nearly autonomous because you still need that human in the loop to be able to perform that approval, that escalation, exception handling, or any kind of things to do with sensitive or critical scenarios, or especially life and death scenarios. And without the human in the loop, this becomes a very dangerous outcome with just autonomous agents in the loop. So again, keep that in mind as we actually move through the value chain of how chatbots have moved into these AI agents, and it becomes a lot more value for the company as we move. And we've also seen that with things like Q&A based interactions to action based interactions. This is where AI agents really come into effect. So Q&A based interactions with chatbot and RPA following the rules to be able to execute tasks. We're moving into agents, which are a lot more action-based, and they can work outside the realm of the rules that are fed into it. So it's able to take actions. So order a laptop for a new employee. It's able to do that for you and not just interact or chat with you. And it's able to also look at how do you actually onboard 5 employees by Monday. That's a big task. It's able to execute that task by itself as long as you feed it that workflow, but also the intelligence that comes with something like the large language models, which is really the brain of these AI. So if I were to really talk about 3 things to remember about the definition of AI agents, I would say an AI agent automates and executes business processes nearly autonomously. Again, keep that in mind. And AI agents can really plan, adapt to new information, and execute tasks independently, making them capable of handling very complex, dynamic environments, decision-making, and autonomous or nearly autonomous actions. They can learn from feedback, adjust their strategies, and operate with minimal human oversight. So really reasoning, retrieving the context, and then performing the action. So again, keep these in mind because these are the key differentiators of AI agents compared to things that we're used to, like chatbots or RPA, that have really, really ruled the past few years for us in the AI space. But AI agents, let me talk through a little bit of a spectrum that we're seeing here. They exist on the spectrum. So different organizations are at different stages of AI transformation. Some are advanced and building the next generation of agents with autonomous capabilities, and others are still building out their AI agents to focus on retrieval and task experiences, bringing their knowledge and automations into their agentic experience. So these descriptions are not official, by the way, and they're not technical names for your agents, but they're used to describe the capabilities that your agent may possess. So all agents have the same set of components. However, it is down to the maker's use cases and complexity that really dictates where your AI agent actually sits across this continuum. So we recognize that agents has been an industrial term used over the years. And in 2024, it has mostly been associated with the right side of the autonomy. So we believe everything is an agent and they live on a spectrum of capability. The first kind of agent is a retrieval agent. So these are really designed with specific instructions on how to behave, their personality, and their overall objectives. They follow very predefined rules and guidelines that are being set by the creators. The second thing is the task-based agents. Now, these are connected to specific workflows or processes. Think about them as process-based agents. So they operate based on knowledge, skills, and rules-based automation. Their primary purpose is to automate repetitive tasks. The third, which is a lot more advanced in terms of the kind of agents we're talking about, is autonomous agents, or as I like to call it, nearly autonomous or advanced or dynamic agents. What these do is they operate independently, they dynamically plan, and they learn from the processes, which means that as you keep iterating, it's able to actually, cater that into effect, take the feedback loop into effect, take into effect the previous interactions that you've had with it, and it's automatically able to plan and orchestrate through all of this. It's able to learn from these processes. They also adapt to changing conditions and they make decisions without constant human intervention. That said, as I mentioned before, please have a human in the loop to be able to orchestrate through any kind of critical scenarios or especially life event scenarios. But I think the main question that at least I asked myself when we actually started with the AI agent journey was, why are we doing this now? Why haven't we done this already before? Because it seems like such an obvious thing to do. And building AI agents really from scratch has been traditionally a very complex and challenging job. There are several factors involved, such as integrating diverse tools and APIs that may have different interfaces and data formats. Interoperability is another hurdle, as agents need to work seamlessly across various platforms. And scalability is really critical to ensure that agents can handle growing data and workloads. Additionally, real-time processing, as you can see there, maintenance, things like error handling really add to the complexity. And these challenges have made it very difficult to rapidly deploy and scale AI agents that can be both effective and secure. So security, error handling, maintenance, these are not simple things to actually have at a scale. And this is why it's taken us so long to actually have these solutions for AI agents. So at Microsoft, we really have some of the best solutions for our customers to be able to build AI agents with. So if you see the spectrum in front of you right now, you can see that you can go from, end user level or ways of actually using AI agents. So we have AI agents that are built into our M365 suite. Things like SharePoint agents or Teams agents that really come with the application itself, and you can use it for the purposes of that particular application within M365. Another way to actually build your agent from scratch, if you are a maker or business user, as I like to call it, is to use our Copilot Studio offering. And that basically enables business users to be able to use drag and drop features or really low code capabilities of UI to be able to build their own agent, single agent capabilities, to actually have like business process agents, think about very task-based agents that I had mentioned earlier. And it has an intrinsic integration to AI Foundry within it. So a lot of the goodness of what I'll talk about of AI Foundry will actually come into effect with the agents that you build using Copilot Studio. And of course, the more developer-focused way of actually building AI agents within Microsoft is with our AI Foundry or AI Agent Service, as you can see on the right-hand side. So what this offers you is the ability to actually, stay within your code base of choice. So Visual Studio or GitHub, do all your coding over there and stay there, but then have that integration point to all the goodness of AI Foundry and build your agent directly from your code base of choice using Azure AI Agent Service and Semantic Kernel, which is our open source orchestration framework to be able to not leave that comfort zone of developers and yet building state-of-the-art, very complex, dynamic agents with your choice. So before we go more into that, let me introduce you to Azure AI Foundry. For those who are not aware of this is our AI platform at Microsoft, more like our AI stack, if you will. It's not a service or model by itself. It's a concept. So it's the entire family that we're talking about with things like, governance, monitoring, observability, different services that I mentioned over here, as well as the integration points, as I mentioned previously, to Copilot Studio, Visual Studio, GitHub, all on the left-hand side that you can see over here. Azure AI Foundry's key services and things that I want to call out are things like the Azure OpenAI service, which, everyone knows about. These are the models that they're talking about from OpenAI. But also things like Azure AI Search to be able to perform, RAG, and ground these models on, your company's information and data to prevent or reduce hallucination. Azure AI Agent Service, which I'll talk about shortly. Content safety for responsible AI practices. And of course, Azure Machine Learning for predictive analytics. And of course, surrounded are all the things to do with our task models like stage models, vision models, content understanding, as well as our foundation models from some of our other partners like Cohere and Mistral and others, as well as observability, evaluations, governance, and monitoring enveloped in this entire. So Azure AI Agent Service is a flexible use case agnostic platform that is there for building, deploying, and managing AI agents. These agents can operate autonomously, really autonomously, with human oversight, leveraging contextual data to perform tasks and achieve specified goals. The service really integrates cutting-edge models and tools from Microsoft, OpenAI, and other partners that I mentioned previously, providing an unparalleled platform for AI-driven automation. Through the Azure AI Foundry SDK and an intuitive Azure AI Foundry portal, previously known as Azure AI Studio, this experience really comes to life and developers can quickly create powerful agents while benefiting from Azure's enterprise-grade security and performance, completely guaranteed. The full package of Azure AI Foundry's agent service is really talking about bringing all of these tools, knowledge bases, models, and this built-in enterprise readiness all together into one holistic service. This is the Azure AI Agent Service. So you will have access and connectors to knowledge bases like Microsoft Fabric, SharePoint, as well as to Bing Search with, providing real-time information, and to Azure AI Search that I mentioned before to really ground these agents on your company or enterprise information or data, as well as key action tools like Logic Apps and Azure Functions and Open API 3.0. And the model catalog, as I mentioned just before, includes things like the Azure OpenAI models and some of the other models from our other partners. And these lists, by the way, is not static. This is definitely growing. And this is a huge focus point from us from a Microsoft perspective. And on the left-hand side, you can see that we have built-in enterprise Wellbeaters tools, things like to be able to have those out-of-box connectors, connection, custom code interpreter, and many others, as well as extensive data connections that I'll mention previously to corporate data with Azure AI Search, structured information, as well as unstructured data support, as well as to external data with Bing Search, and this flexible model selection that I mentioned a few times. And of course, everything to do with security and governance, where we're talking about how to meet rigorous enterprise requirements with features such as bring your own storage for custom data handling, private virtual networks, VNet, to secure the data traffic, and then no public egress for strict data privacy compliance. These capabilities really ensure that organizations can protect sensitive information while adhering to regulatory standards. We're not talking about just a random service. We're talking about an enterprise-ready service. And in Microsoft, nothing really works in silo. So we are talking about here how everything is coming together. We want to talk through all the layers over here whenever we talk about anything in AI agents, the entire data analytics and AI stack with powerful starting points such as Copilot Studio, Visual Studio, GitHub, or like I mentioned, the Azure AI Foundry portal for people to be able to use the playground, experiment, and then go back to their code base of choice of Visual Studio and GitHub, and how really everything is powered by Azure AI Foundry and integrates to our data estate, Microsoft Fabric. This is really an end-to-end offering that we're talking about for Microsoft. And as we saw, we have solutions for both scenarios. So we're talking about how do we actually move and evolve from just personal productivity, where really the M365 agents that I mentioned previously on that spectrum that you saw come into effect, to moving into things like process transformation, where they're talking about team level transformation and productivity. How do you actually manage productivity at a team level with a few individuals rather than just one individual? And then move into a more scaled process transformation at an organizational level, where we start talking about Azure AI Foundry and Agent Service coming into to manage all these dynamic and much more complex AI. So here we start talking about all kinds of users, the low-code users, all the way to the code first or the pro-code users. So really focusing our attention on who is the person who is building these agents. And there's so much that agents can really do for you. Let's illustrate the concept with a few AI agents, examples here. So we're talking about an IT help desk, for instance, agent that really answers how-to questions after being fed, internal knowledge base. It's a really simple retrieval agent. An agent that, when triggered by IT professional, can order a new laptop for an employee based on concrete instructions about which model to order and where to send it to, is like a task agent. And there are so many kinds of such business processors or task agents that we typically talk to with our customers. And you can layer them by complexity. So as I mentioned, how to evolve from this personal productivity into a team level productivity to an organizational process-driven transformation. This is where we move into the entire use case complexity, right? So we're talking about AI-powered productivity on the left-hand side, adding it up with more business process automation. Why stop there? Adding it more with advanced AI applications. When we saw before those task-based or business process agents, now we're moving into creating those much more complex scenarios, which is on the right-hand side of this layering of complexity. So now we're taking it to the next step. So AI agents making significant strides across various industries with use cases ranging from travel booking to employee onboarding. I love the employee onboarding example, because here we're talking about how do we actually use various kinds of agents. We're talking about the HR agent, we're talking about the IT agent, we're talking about the procurement agent, we're talking about various different agents coming together and forming this multi-agent solution in this very simply thought of employee onboarding scenario, right? So we're talking about a person actually getting onboarded, the HR agent actually triggering something to the procurement agent, triggering something to the finance agent. Once that's been approved, triggering something to the IT agent to order the laptop for that person. And once that's been approved, how do you get the training agent to come in and make sure that the training details are set up for this new employee? This is a very complex task in an AI agentic scenario. Think about it from an enterprise scenario. This is what we want to get to with our customers, to be able to actually efficiently do things at speed. So again, it doesn't just concern one thing or one particular agent or one particular individual. That's at an organizational level constellation that we're talking. Now, remember the shift that I started to talk about today, that shift in AI platform. This is where we are with that. And this Azure AI Foundry that I've been mentioning a few times is really there to help us with this shift. Azure AI Foundry is really the unified platform that allows our customers to design, customize, and manage the next generation of AI apps and agents at scale. And it's really integrated with state-of-the-art developer tools in the world like GitHub, Visual Studio, and of course, Copilot Studio, if you also want to be able to cater to local ways to actually building agents. And all supported through the Azure AI Foundry SDK that you can see on the left-hand side, that really powers and underlines the entire thing end-to-end so that people can use this across the various services, models, and developer tools on the left-hand side. And with that, I hope that was very helpful. Thank you so much, Terry.